As promised, the transfer portal madness continues, and we have a good feel as to where these kids are now visiting. It's the day and age of modern college football. Some very big-time visitors taking big-time visits, if you catch my drift. The number one player in the transfer portal, according to On3, Fentrell Cypress, was all ACC a season ago. He is obviously in the portal. He's taking a visit as we speak, as we're live on air right now, to the Florida State University. This would be a huge get, as Josh Newberg is about to join us here in a second, in about a segment or two, rather, and talk about how Florida State's been a player in the portal in previous years and how this year may not be any different. This would be a huge domino to have fallen for that Florida State program and for that Florida State defense. Just to have a guy like Fentrell Cypress, I believe he only allowed like 18 receptions on the year, which, folks, if you don't know, that's stupid. To have someone like that to line up outside and take away the number one wide receiver completely changes the way that you can play the game defensively. So Fentrell Cypress on a visit right now to Florida State. Sounds like that's the only visit he's taking before the dead period. Keep an eye on his recruitment, because that is a very, very big fish and someone you will want to make sure you have tabs on if he does end up being at a school your school plays, or maybe he's going to your school in general. But right now, visiting Florida State, a very impactful, very important visit for the Seminoles. Now, Grayson McCall, there was some smoke around this. He is Coastal Carolina's quarterback. He's going to play in the bowl game. He is expected to take a visit to Auburn. Now, we had said this previously, that this fit makes a ton of sense for us. A guy who's started over 30 games, or at least played in over 30 games, 8 interceptions his entire career, over 70 touchdowns, passing 70% completion percentage. Auburn, I think, would benefit a lot from getting Grayson McCall, because you get a steady hand. You infuse some experience on day one with your starting quarterback being Grayson McCall, who's played a lot of football. It's not going to be a matter of, okay, can we sort of figure out this project of a quarterback? No knock on Robbie Ashford, but the metaphor that I used previously was with the situation that Auburn's in, with the vehicle currently not being in perfect status, right? The tire's a little bit leaky. The body of the vehicle's a little bit beat up. It's not the best personnel. It's not the best roster. So do you want the beat-up car being driven by somebody who just got their license, has one season under their belt, Robbie Ashford? Or would you rather someone who's played a whole lot of college football in Grayson McCall? That's how that helps Auburn. Now, for Grayson McCall, I think it's pretty clear that he would benefit from being at Auburn for exposure, right? I mean, playing in the SEC and NFL junior, that would answer a lot of questions that I would imagine scouts have about Grayson McCall translating to the professional level. So keep an eye on this. I think it helps both parties, and we'll see if there's anything that ends up coming of this. I think Florida is also going to be a player in Grayson McCall's recruitment. Nothing confirmed, nothing insightful that I have in terms of getting different reports, but that's just my feel on it. Florida also needs a quarterback, so keep an eye on them in the Grayson McCall sweepstakes. If you have not yet joined the party, we would love to have you. National Signing Day around the corner. Transfer portal season, obviously, turning up the heat. Make sure you're subscribed. This is a 12-month-a-year sport, is college football. We cover it as such. It allows us to have a job here. So we love that. Also, follow me on the socials, at JD Piquel on Twitter and on Instagram. Another big-time player in the portal right now, Brennan Armstrong. He's the number 2 portal quarterback for us, number 8 player overall. All right, so this is a very high caliber player that's out there right now. He's going to visit Wisconsin and Oklahoma State. We'll start with Wisconsin. Phil Longo is the newly minted offensive coordinator there in Madison. He was at North Carolina previously. His offenses, to say the least, are quarterback friendly. Scored 33 points a game last year, helped develop Drake May into what will be essentially a bona fide first-round pick, if not one of the top picks overall. And his system is very much so pass-heavy. Like, they're going to throw the ball a lot. They averaged right around 37 attempts this past season, okay? So if you're Brennan Armstrong and you want to go play at the next level, which is basically what this looks like, it looks like it's a move to help his draft stock is jumping in the portal for Brennan Armstrong. If you want to help your draft stock, how about you throw it around the yard, put up some big numbers, answer some questions for scouts, and kind of erase whatever the 2022 season was for you. Like 2021, he was phenomenal, had over 31 touchdowns. I believe he had single-digit interceptions. Like, dude balled out. 2022, a much less impressive statistical showing. Virginia had their own issues in their first year under new head coach. Wipe all that away, go to a quarterback-friendly system, and play for the program that has a really high upside in Wisconsin. More on that in a second. The other school he's visiting in Oklahoma State, I think that is potentially the more proven commodity, the more high-floor option. And for them, Mike Gundy has a proven track record of helping and developing quarterbacks. historically a great offense, and you have to replace a quarterback in Spencer Sanders. So that's the world you live in right now if you're Oklahoma State. And I say they're the safer bet because you kind of have a good feel for what that coaching staff wants to do historically. You don't have to wonder too much about who Oklahoma State is going to be under Mike Gundy and that staff. For Wisconsin, we know them to be that ground and pound operation, play with a couple tight ends, play with a fullback. Like, that's who we've known them to be. It's going to be a whole new look there now under Luke Fickell and new offensive coordinator Phil Longo. So to a degree, you're kind of gambling on that system coming to fruition, or at least a competitive product in year one under a new staff. So it's a gamble, but if it pays off in spades, that would be big for Brennan Armstrong if he chooses to go to Wisconsin. So both these schools make sense. I see the fit for both schools, but at the end of the day, for Brennan Armstrong, this is a business decision. It's about getting your NFL draft stock up, and away, and I think he has a good chance to do that at both programs. So both impressive options for him if he does end up ending at one of those schools. Another player we're watching, Chris Marshall from Texas A&M. He's a former 5-star, currently the number 6 wide receiver in the transfer portal. Our director of scouting and rankings, Charles Power, his comp for him at the NFL level is Allen Robinson, kind of that large catch radius, basketball background, good body control sort of player. So a guy who can help you right away with that frame. He visited Ole Miss on Tuesday, but all the smoke right now is going around TCU. Remember, TCU is also, according to rumors and rumblings, the leader in the clubhouse for Alabama's wide receiver, Joe Earl. Now, Chris Marshall is from the state of Texas, and I think TCU would make a little bit more sense, if I'm just looking at the numbers here, for what he could potentially do for his future professional stock, because that's a little bit what this is about, right? Development, having something on tape for the pros. Like, I think TCU makes a whole lot of sense. Nothing against Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin has proven he can do whatever he needs to do with his personnel to allow his team to be successful. But looking at the numbers, Ole Miss last season made it clear they are a running football team. With Quinshon Judkins coming back again next season, inevitably, I think that'll kind of be their bell cow. TCU, a potent offense. Sonny Dykes has a history of being an aired-out kind of guy. And I think just from a lifestyle standpoint, Chris Marshall was suspended mid-season at A&M. It was an indefinite suspension. And I like the TCU fit for him better just by nature of it being a smaller school, closer to home than Ole Miss would be. Just be able to focus on ball, get out of the SEC spotlight a little bit, and just go to work. I would like that for Chris Marshall, so that makes sense to me. We'll see what happens, but right now the RPM, I don't know how many picks are in there right now, but it's 95% leaning towards TCU. So the visit on paper is Ole Miss, but TCU is getting all the smoke right now for Chris Marshall. Again, a former 5-star, top 25 recruit. Whoever lands him, whether he's unproven or not at the college level, is a debate in itself, but I think Chris Marshall is going to help your football team in a big way the first day on campus. Here's one of the more fascinating visitors from this upcoming visit weekend that I think we need to keep an eye on. Malik Hornsby, transferring from Arkansas to be determined, but he's visiting this weekend Nebraska. Now, Malik Hornsby is a guy who is just a superior athlete. I mean, sub 1,100-meter dash. Folks, that's real deal fast. He has been played at receiver at times. He played quarterback at times this year for Arkansas. And the reason for him jumping in the portal is just him feeling like, hey, I need to start somewhere this upcoming year. Like, if I want to be a quarterback and I want to make my money in the NFL as a quarterback, I need to prove it at the college level and get at least 1 year of starting experience under my belt. And there's a relationship there previously with Matt Rule from his high school days. Malik Hornsby, a guy that is from the state of Texas. Matt Rule, obviously, with his time at Baylor, recruited Malik Hornsby or made an effort to, and now full circle via the transfer portal, they're going to get him on campus for an official visit. Now, this is the second quarterback visitor in as many weeks for Nebraska, and they also visited Jeff Sims last week from Georgia Tech, or had him visit, rather. And that's interesting to me because Casey Thompson is still potentially coming back next year. There's nothing reported or confirmed about that. He has the option, it sounds like, to come back next year. Not sounds like, he does. And the interesting thing about this is Casey Thompson will likely undergo shoulder surgery, could miss the spring. And so I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but that doesn't necessarily inspire a ton of confidence in me and feeling like Casey Thompson is going to be the guy for them next year if you're visiting quarterbacks on back-to-back weeks. Also worth mentioning, they're dual threat guys. So maybe tells you something about the direction the offense could go under Marcus Satterfield and what they're going to do from a run game standpoint. But at the end of the day, Malik Hornsby, he wants to be a quarterback. He's open to being a wide receiver, regardless of what he lines up as. I believe they are visiting him as a quarterback. But regardless of what he lines up at on your football team, he's a football player. He's a special athlete. He can help your team. Like I said, elite caliber speed. So keep an eye on that. That would be a big get for Nebraska if they do end up landing Malik Hornsby. So to recap it, the number 1 player in the transfer portal, cornerback Fentrell Cypress from the University of Virginia, is visiting right now at Florida State. That is a very, very big fish. Grayson McCall expected to take a visit to Auburn. The quarterback from Coastal Carolina still going to play in the bowl game. But a lot of smoke right now around Grayson McCall and the Auburn Tigers. Brennan Armstrong taking not 1 but 2 visits. Wisconsin and Oklahoma State both make a lot of sense. Both would be business decisions for Brennan Armstrong and his professional draft stock. Chris Marshall from Texas A&M visited Ole Miss previously. A lot of smoke around TCU and potentially deciding to stay in state and end up being a Horned Frog. Malik Hornsby, like we had just said, the quarterback. Not just the playmaker, yes, but the quarterback is being recruited by Nebraska, taking an official visit, and whoever gets Malik Hornsby is getting a superior athlete and a guy who played quarterback at a really high level at the high school level. So those are the visitors. We'll keep an eye on it, but make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're locked in. We got a ton to get into. The transfer portal is just starting to turn up the heat, okay? There are guys from these college football playoff teams, and I promise you, I don't know what caliber they'll be, but there will be guys from those rosters that will eventually jump into the portal as well. So keep it locked right here. Make sure you're subscribed, and we're going to make sure we got you covered going forward. All right? Roll, party, roll. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.